Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As, as we all know, the President has for some time been threatening to deploy the National Guard into Chicago and into the state of Illinois. And that's significant. And he's been threatening to militarize our streets and in many ways has done so. This morning, I filed a lawsuit challenging the unlawful deployment of the National Guard troops to Illinois, including the Illinois National Guard, the call for the Texas National Guard. And my lawyers have just, as the governor updated you, were just in court arguing these actions. We're seeking a temporary restraining order, and we'll hear from the government from the federal government within a couple of days. The American people, regardless of where they reside, should not live under the threat of occupation by the United States military, particularly for the reason that their city or state leadership has fallen out of the president's political favor. I've said we would be prepared to respond to any unlawful deployment, and that moment has come, and we have responded. In the more than 40 lawsuits we have filed challenging the Trump administration's unlawful actions, we've explained that the executive branch has to follow the law. A president cannot go beyond the authority granted by Congress with regards to deploying the National Guard. The militia clauses of the United States Constitution give Congress sole authority to decide what factual circumstances allow the president to federalize the National Guard. The Posse Comitatus Act prohibits members of the military from engaging in civilian law enforcement. Just last month, a judge in California recognized that fact. Our local law enforcement have shown time and time again that they are effective at maintaining peace throughout Illinois. And the 10th Amendment preserves the state's sovereignty and right to do so. And there is no need or justification for a militarized response to anything going on in Chicago. It is unfair to National Guardsmen. It is unfair to local law enforcement. And it is certainly unfair to the law-abiding citizens of Illinois who do not want to be subject to military occupation. The only situations that are out of control are certain ICE and Customs Border Patrol officers who are engaged in shocking overreach in an attempt to create a crisis. In fact, President Trump's own statements over time demonstrate that this is not at all about an emergency. He said specifically that he wants to use American cities as military training grounds. He has threatened using a meme, Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. He has disparaged and threatened to deploy in Chicago for weeks. This is not about an emergency. This is a political targeting utilizing our military. This is not about the federal government being unable to do their job through normal channels. This is about a president's unconstitutional desire to take the unprecedented action of militarizing American cities. But just this weekend, a judge in Oregon issued a temporary restraining order stopping the administration's similar actions in Oregon. As the judge said in the ruling, this is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law. Donald Trump's derogatory comments about the city of Chicago started even before he took office. Without any official communication with the state, Operation Midway Blitz began bringing federal immigration teams in unconstitutional detentions and raids that have caused mass panic and protests and injuries. And the shooting of a Franklin Park resident and father during an attempted warrantless vehicle stop by federal agents. Throughout the month of September, it is federal agents who have escalated tactics, with the head of the Customs and Border Patrol operations in Chicago threatening that ICE would bring a shit show to Broadview, which is what they have created. It was not until September 26 that a memo from DHS was sent to the Department of Defense requesting 100 troops to be sent to protect ICE facilities in Illinois, presumably in reference to Broadview. That memo was emailed to a member of the Illinois National Guard on September 29, requesting troops to integrate with federal law enforcement operations. The state received no further communication until the morning of October 4th, a Saturday. At that time, Adjutant General Rodney Boyd received a call from the U.S. military asking him to start the process of calling up 300 members of the Illinois National Guard. It was followed by a memo stating that the president has directed the mobilization of at least 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to protect the federal personnel, functions, and property in Illinois, with no further specifics. The memo explicitly stated that if the state did not agree to the request within 2 hours, the Secretary of the Department of Defense would federalize and deploy as many National Guard troops as he wants. Because there is no public safety need or other emergency requiring the National Guard intervention, Illinois again declined to voluntarily call up troops that we don't need or want. Saturday night, General Boyd received a memo purporting to call the Illinois National Guard into federal service under Section 12406 of the U.S. Code, even over the objection of the governor. The stated reason for the order is to protect ICE and other U.S. government personnel and federal property. They provided no information about threat assessments or planned operations that were referenced in the memo. I'm here to say that the president's actions are illegal. The president has failed to establish that any of the legal prerequisites exist for his efforts to mobilize the National Guard's troops here. No president can flout the Constitution. I said we will not hesitate to fight any unlawful deployment, and I want to make sure to make clear that our prayer for relief includes barring the threatened deployment of the National Guard from the state of Texas or anywhere else. Last night, we became aware of an undated memo from Secretary Hexas to Adjutant General of Texas, federalizing the Texas National Guard for service in Illinois, Oregon, and other locations. Deployment of the military to Illinois is unlawful and unconstitutional, no matter where these forces come from. I want to lift up the hardworking lawyers in the Attorney General's office who worked at all times of the night and the wee morning. We were communicating at ungodly hours to put together this complaint. As we speak, the team is just coming from arguing for a temporary restraining order. These same lawyers and others on my staff, as well as on the governor's staff and the city corporation council staff, toiled over the past year responding to numerous threats, and our lawyers have, as you know, filed over 40 lawsuits. These lawyers are the true American heroes. Collectively, we will continue to fight on behalf of the citizens of Illinois and the American people at large. With that, I'd like to pass it on to our mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Thank you to the governor.